to my podcast, Ambila. I'm so happy you're here. How are you today?
I'm very well, Connie, and thank you so much for inviting and having me.
Well, thank you for taking the time. So, you call yourself a multipreneur, but you used to work in the corporate world, but now you transitioned into being a spiritual coach and having your own business. So, talk a little bit about that journey. How did this happen?
God, it wasn't part of the life plan. So if somebody had asked me aged 19 when I was going off to university as we know it in the UK, college as you guys know it, that would not, a spiritual business would not have been part of that plan. Um, I followed the normal upbringing where, you go off to university, you get a degree, then you go and get a job. And, I ended up in the corporate world. And my background is very much into business and IT. So for about a decade, I was working in that world, traveling the world, doing lots of things. But I also always knew that I wanted my own business. I had no clue what it was going to be, but I always knew I wanted to have my own business. And as I started approaching about 27, 28, that's when I started thinking that this was the right time to start thinking about it. Not necessarily starting it because I still didn't have that clarity, but to start getting myself financially ready so that I could leave my corporate job and, have an income. So I loved psychology. I've always loved psychology. I've always been passionate about understanding people, reading language, body language, anything at all. I want to just basically know about human beings. And I thought, how can I do something along that line where I'm helping people, but not have the negatives? So in the UK, coaching didn't exist. Not when I was kind of contemplating this idea and stuff. So I thought of, okay, I can look into psychology, doing a psychology degree, or I can become a trained counselor. Now, the negatives of both of those were that I did not want to spend 3 years studying psychology and then having to do all the mental health and then having to do all of the testing and everything else that you have to do. I just wanted to take like a portion of it and go, this is the only thing I want. Now, the same with counseling. Counseling can keep you in the past because you're constantly regurgitating, re-emphasizing the story, the journey, whatever. I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to take the positives again of, the counseling skills. And I was thinking, if I do that, I have to do it as a separate because nothing joint existed. And I thought, that's 6 years of my life. Do I really want to be doing that? And divinely, if you want to call it, I still am huge fan of Oprah, so I used to watch all of her programs and stuff. And one day this person was talking, and her name was Alana Van Zandt, and she mentioned the word life coach. And I went, because I loved what she was doing, within Oprah, that's what she was doing. She was coaching. And I was going, I love what she was doing. And then when she mentioned the word life coach, that was it. I was straight on the internet, Googling, reading all of the information, everything. And the only thing that existed was US based at the time. So it took me 3 months to commit. I enrolled in a course, did my life coaching for 2.5 years. I think I studied it alongside working full time and became a life coach. The spiritual end of it is that I've always been intrigued with regards to that side of life, but knowing how my life was going to turn out. So I used to go and get palm readings, tarot readings, any kind of reading just to give me insight on my life was going to be okay and I was going to be fine. And when I did life coaching, I had just moved to a new area, new home where I'm living now. And I didn't know people, I didn't know anybody. And I'd gone to a tarot reader like I always did. And she said to me, oh, I'm going to be starting a psychic circle, teaching people this ability and whatever. Do you want to come? And I thought, good way of meeting people, great way of passing time, great way of interacting and being part of the community. And I thought, yeah, I'll enjoy it. Why not? So I went along and started learning how to open my intuition up. And she taught us absolutely every skill under the sun, from pendulums to mediumship to tarots to, she specialized in tarots, to dowsing, to you name it, it was all thrown into the pot, and it was up to us what we were drawn to, and I was drawn to tarots. So two separate things happening parallel but not kind of joined together. And because I was of the corporate mindset and corporate world, I didn't know how to put spirituality into my work without feeling I was being judged, or feeling that that part of my life would judge me, because corporate's very logical and they consider spiritual woo woo and dancing around the trees and all of that kind of thing. And I thought, I'm not going to make any money if I tell them that I can read tarots, because of course it took me 3 years and I homed in on my ability and stuff. And I thought, if I tell them I do tarots and stuff, I'm going to lose all of my clients. So for years I kept it as a separate, to the point that my spiritual business was under a different alias, a name that if you Googled, you would not have any connection to me whatsoever. And I kind of, in some ways, led two different lives, because there was, all of my friends who knew the spiritual side of me as well as the coaching side. But then there was the hidden side where I wasn't telling everybody about my spiritual side. So it took me a long time. I think it was my elder sister passed away in 2017, and that was a turning point for me, because I think it was that loss that made me realize it doesn't matter anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I need to get out of my own way of judging myself. And I just put it out to the world, and I went, you know what, I don't care. I don't care what people think. I don't care what they expect. This is who I am. This is what I do. I don't want to be doing my spiritual side of things under a different alias. And as soon as I embraced it myself, the world embraced it. So the only person who was stopping it was me, because nobody, well, they were surprised, but not shocked. And everyone went, oh my God, I didn't know you did that. Oh my God, that is amazing. Oh my God. And as soon as I kind of got that acceptance and approval, and the people I'm talking about are my extended family and immediate family, because again, very logical minded, corporate-y, so for them, this is a whole new concept. So when I was fully accepted by them, it was like, okay, that's it. I'm in business. I'm doing it now. And that's when I was able to join the two together. And then I can actually say that in some ways I was guided in how to package it and how I could have my spiritual business work for me and share that with people.
Mm-hmm. Don't you find it amazing that we always think it has to be either or? Because I come from the corporate world too, and I was always into spirituality, into tarot, into astrology, but I also kept it separate. And why? Do you have an answer maybe to that, or your insights to that? Why do we feel like it has to be so separate? It's like either you're analytical or you're spiritual, but oh my God, it can't be both.
It's because we're going through a transition space of the generation before. And the generation before, excuse me, having come through wartime and everything else, it's not that psychics didn't exist and spirituality didn't exist and stuff. It was packaged in a different way. So the corporate world is known to be, if you look at the film The Matrix, I'll use that as an example because that's the thing that's coming through. So basically the bubble that most people are living in is that of the one job for life, one thing for life, that this is your chosen path, so that if you've got a degree in IT, then you can only do IT. You can't become a fashion designer, or you can't become a musician. No, it's IT. So that's the psychology that subconsciously but also consciously people are trained into and brought up in thinking, and it's the norm. Nobody questions it. It's the norm. Then you have the small group who not so much break away, but kind of start finding new ways of living. And that you could call that spirituality if you want, but it's allowing yourself to let go of the barriers of being judged and not feeling you need to fit inside a box. My journey, one of the things, that I have learned is that, one, I don't fit into a box, but two, neither does my business.
Mm-hmm.
So even though a lot of what I do is spiritual based in terms of coaching, tarot reading, healing, whatever, I still call myself a business person, a businesswoman, because that's just an element of what I do.
Yeah.
But what I want to create and share and give out to the world is a lot more. And I don't want to restrict myself by saying I'm just a coach, because then it's kind of like, but I want to do all of the other businesses, which is what my corporate mindset kept me from.
Yeah.
I had an interior design business. I had a really successful tarot business. I shut all of that down because for years my psychology was I can only succeed in one thing. I can't have many.
Mm-hmm.
And now all of a sudden everything is opening up and going, nope, you can have many. Embrace it. If it's a part of you, embrace it. And I think it's the same with spirituality now, that if it's a part of you, the generation below, which is, below me, is a lot more open to these things,
Mm-hmm.
because we're growing up in a culture where self-development is the normal part of being, where mental health and asking questions and seeking advice is normal. My generation didn't have that. That was still a new concept.
Mm-hmm.
When I qualified as a life coach and told people I was a life coach, they would completely shut off and go, there is nothing mentally wrong with me. It's as if I was insulting them and their intelligence and
Yeah.
telling them that their life was screwed up, and I wasn't. So there's been a lot of change in terms of mindset and thinking, that's going on with, well, even our generation and below, that is helping with that shift.
Mm. Yeah, I do find it's a very important process, because like we all go to the doctor when we feel some physical pain or when something is wrong with our body. Nobody judges us, or we don't feel judged if we say I had to go to the doctor because, I don't know, my arm was hurting or my arm was broke even, or whatever. The minute we're asking, we're going to a life coach, or we're going to a psychologist, or just trying to understand our brain, there is this notion that, oh, something is wrong with me. We would never think something is wrong with me in that way if some body parts are hurting, and so that's why I find it's very important
Yeah,
development now.
it is. But if you think about it on the bigger picture, mental health in terms of the media and in terms of, the understanding and stuff has only been maybe around in the last 10, maybe pushing it to 15 years. My mum, I grew up, my mum has bipolar, so I've always grown up with somebody, relating to mental health. And if I look at her journey and our journey as a family, in terms of the understanding just medically, as well as as a family, for them to being able to guide us and stuff like that, that didn't exist. That support, that knowledge, that information wasn't there, because mental health was never looked into or researched or, looked at as a greater picture. It's only been in the last maybe just over a decade, I don't know precisely, that it's become more of a focus, that people are having more of that realization. And the reason for that is that people are now working more on themselves as well as their outer life, about the job and the house and the car that we drive and all of that. They're all beginning to also do the inner work, and that's where that change and the shift is really beginning to happen.
I think they start understanding that it's not the material things that
Yeah,
actually are
yeah,
important in the
yeah,
end.
yeah.
I see this a lot because I help people declutter. Like, just because you have a house full of toys, if we want to call it toys, or a
Yeah.
house full of stuff, doesn't mean our idea is often still, oh, he or she made it. No, it's just the big house, all the toys, all the good stuff. But it often we realize that these people are not happier, or we realize ourselves when we have certain things, we're not really happier. And I think this is why it's so important transition. And you said too that when your sister died, that's kind of when you kind of clued off. And I feel like sometimes it needs, as hard as it is, but sometimes it needs a very disruptive, sad moment to snap us out of this, because we're all kind of in this conditioning. And I think in the end, nobody would really fit in a box. We're just all, or the people that feel like they fit in a box, they're just so used to be in that box. But technically, we probably all wouldn't fit in the box.
Precisely. But again, it's kind of like that. One of the things that we have to acknowledge in life is that certain people are happy and fine to be in a box. They don't need to be. The example I use with my friends is that my friends who think very similar to us are very much like, but why don't they want to improve their lives and be leaders and do this and do that and be more empowered and whatever? And I went, if you look at a company needs workers. If it had all the leaders, how the hell would a company, business, whatever work? And it's the same thing with regards to life. There will always be a percentage of people who are happy to be and content, not happy just, to put up with it, but in actually content to have that life, to have that structure, to know that they fit into the 2.4 children, white picket fence, 9-to-5 job, all of that. And they're happy with that. And that is absolutely okay. But then there's, the other side of the coin where others want more. Others want to question, more. Others want a little bit more out of life and more fulfilling. And those are the people, as you mentioned, relating to the challenges regarding my sister. Those are the people that will go through the biggest challenges, because those are the people that have been really pushed into, spirituality. And you can't, if you're on a spiritual journey, you can't have one without the other. You can't choose that. Well, you can. You can't choose to be spiritual and then kind of go, but something's not feeling a bit empty and not right, and it's not there. Or you can't go on an internal journey and not be hit by some kind of spirituality or insight or something, because they both sit parallel. And when you have the foundations of that in your life, then that structure, what you were talking about, the materialistic things and stuff. I have a spiritual business. I shout it from the rooftop, but equally, I like my materialistic comforts. By no means am I saying that I'm going to be shedding those just because I have a spiritual business. No, I like my comforts, but my comforts can cost me £1 or $1 in your case, or, $1 billion. It makes no difference to me. If it gives me comfort, it's not about the price. It's just about that I like having a cushion behind my back. So, rather than sitting on a hard floor. So those kinds of things. And it's knowing that that is okay. You can still live in harmony with the two.
Yeah. Well, that's so I never meant to say that when you're on a spiritual path, you have to become the Buddhist monk on the top of the hill that looks nothing,
You did. No.
I just feel like oftentimes we when we're feeling like this push on the inside, possibly a lot of people end up thinking, oh, I just need to have more things or a bigger house, and that's kind of where we learn that maybe it's not it. And I also feel like I'm even with clutter too, I'm always saying, like, it's not the idea that you reduce and become minimalist or whatever. The idea is that you actually feel good in your home, that you feel good with your life. And if you're not, then let's go and explore. If you feel good, then, oh my God, I admire you, like that's where we all want to go.
Exactly. And what you do in terms of the decluttering is very much, you're decluttering their spirit, although on the external. And this is, something they may not be aware of instantly, but because you are clearing their environment, but actually what you're doing is helping them to move forward and clear their spirit,
Yeah, yeah.
because
That's
they're
why
doing a lot of letting go.
yeah, that's why we say as without, so within, as above, so below. It's kind of like it brings also something in motion. I feel like there is nobody who when they start to let go of material things on the outside doesn't change on the inside somehow too, and vice versa. It's all connected. So what I want to explore a little bit is how does, like you said, you were really drawn to tarot. So how is tarot helping you, or also your clients, getting more clarity, or being on the spiritual path? Tell me this, what draws you to tarot so much?
It's weird. I probably couldn't pinpoint what drew me to tarots, but it just was something, because as I said, I was taught mediumship and I'm just completely opposite, shut off. I don't want to go there, don't want to do that. But with tarots, it's just became very natural. So yes, she taught me academically, in the sense of understanding the cards and what they literally mean and stuff. But because she was also homing in on our intuition and intuitive, I'm an intuitive reader. So I began to form a relationship. I had a pack of tarots, which I'd bought from a bookshop with a book, that explains each one. So I used to do the kind of readings with, in parties and girlfriends, that you pick a card and then you look up what that card means and stuff. And I was that literal reader because I didn't know intuitively. So that switch within me that made me an intuitive reader came, there wasn't even a timeline. It just naturally started to happen the more I started to look into the cards and form that relationship with them and understand. And I'm talking about my pack because every pack is different. But with my pack, I started to form that relationship with them and kind of looking into the card, kind of looking into the pictures and, forming that. And I remember we were doing a workshop and then we had to do readings for each other and things like that. And I just started reading and I didn't question. I was always a channeler, so that ability I had before I even started any psychic work. So, and part of my intuitive reading is that I'm channeling information. I call myself the radio. And, but I'm still very drawn to the cards because the cards for me just give me extra information. They don't give me all the information because I can do a reading for you right now without even looking at a card, because I read energy. But the tarot I found for other people who aren't yet open to maybe having readings or maybe just want to dip their toes in and stuff, it gives them that added comfort that she has a tool she's working with, as opposed to a person who's just sitting there yabbering on and giving them all this information. So it's kind of like a twofold. And but tarot was just something that instinctively I think I allowed myself to be guided without questioning. And until you asked me that question, I hadn't actually even ever thought of it. So it's still a tool that works for me, and I'm still drawn to.
Yeah, but I have heard that before from somebody else who reads tarot, that they say they basically don't need the cards. They have the cards more for the client. So because the client comes for a tarot reading, so you have to have cards, otherwise the client would be confused. Yeah. So when clients come to you, can they ask you, where, like, if somebody feels a pull inside and they don't know where to go, can they ask you? How can you help them? Like, just explain a little bit what situations in life you can help and where you couldn't help. Like, we can't come to you probably and say, oh, do I have a big windfall in 2 months or something, I would assume. But say a little bit what tarot can do and what tarot maybe can't do, if there is anything it can't do.
I don't think there's the limitations of the tarot are dependent on the reader, on where you want to put your boundaries and stuff, because if you go to certain readers, they will talk about money, they will talk about health, they will talk about, yeah, windfalls, yes, you're going to win the lottery, whatever. And that's their complete choice. I'm not saying that they're right or wrong, or they're not getting the information right or wrong. I choose instinctively, because that's where I feel guided to, that I do not talk about death. So I'm not going to sit there going, oh yes, you're going to fall ill and then that's going to happen, or your mother's going to have, or any of that. I do not go there.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, I will talk about money. If you have money worries and you come and you kind of go, oh God, I've lost my job, am I going to get another one? Or my business is fading, is something going to happen? And then I'll be able to go yes or no, or you've got more struggles or whatever, then I'll be able to kind of give that kind of guidance. But if somebody came to me saying, what are the lottery numbers, am I going to win? And I'm like, sorry, not going there either.
Mm-hmm.
And the third thing I won't talk about is health related.
Mm-hmm.
Generic, yes. Generic, if somebody's saying, I just constantly always feel tired, and you're like, well, yeah, okay, logically, take some vitamins, have a look at your iron, go and, take a run. Are you exercising? Are you eating well? So you give the generic things.
Mm-hmm.
But if somebody comes to me and says, I'm worried I might have cancer, my advice is please go and see your doctor. Don't
Yeah.
come to me. Yes, I'm an energy healer, but by no means am I going to say substitute that to
Yeah.
not seeing your physician, because those are two different things. So yeah, so there are three very stringent things that I kind of will not go there. But again, tarot is only limited according to what the reader will allow and won't allow.
Yeah.
So
So now when we've got that clear, and I like that a lot, because I feel like that this is a very dangerous territory if we would go there. But what would be then, for example, good questions to come to somebody like you, to a tarot reader? What would you, from your perspective, think would be a good question to come with?
no question is a wrong question, because for anybody who's coming, it's their life and it's important for them. So there aren't any kind of like top 10 questions that I think, you need to go and see a tarot reader for, because everybody will come because they're in pain, because they're seeking clarity or guidance, or they need that confidence boost that their life is going in the right direction. So I would basically say that if you have been struggling for insights, have been trying to go, I can't figure it out. Why on earth is this not working? I've tried everything. I'm doing this, I'm doing that, struggling in that kind of a way. Go and see a tarot reader, because sometimes seeing a tarot reader gives you a bigger picture of what's going on, because we're given the universal message of what's going on, as opposed to just the daily messages of what you're going through. So we're able to kind of go, okay, so this is where you're stuck. Oh yes, you lost that job, but another job is coming. Have you applied? Have you spoken? And we're able to guide. And sometimes all of those things are within you already, but hearing it from somebody else gives you that added boost and confidence that it's the right direction. And one thing about my readings, because yes, I do have that coaching background, is that when I'm talking to somebody who's going through a challenge, I'm always showing them the light at the end of the tunnel as well. I'm not keeping them in the challenge, because the whole point of the journey and the reason that you're coming to me is to get some kind of faith and help and hope, and that life is going to change and it's going to be okay and everything is going to be fine. So my job is not to keep you in despair, but to bring you out of it and give you that hope and insight that actually there's a huge bigger picture going on in your life than just the daily that you're stuck in.
Yeah, I love that. I love the coaching background combined with the tarot. I feel that is a very good combination. Yeah.
I was just going to say, my coaching program encompasses tarot readings and healing, but when I'm doing them separate, I try not to, but because it's such a part of me, I can't help but not kind of give that guidance as well. So
yeah. So talk a little bit about where could people find you if they wanted to find you, or if they were interested in either your coaching or your tarot or the combination of it.
Uh, I am so easy to find. I'm all over the internet. I'm all over social media, but mainly Facebook and Instagram. And it's everything is under my name. So get the spelling of my name right, and you will find me. So it's Ambila Nath,
Mhm.
and yeah, I come up very easily.
Yeah, I will put the link in the show notes. So before we wrap up here, do you have any last words of wisdom, or was there anything I didn't ask you that you would like to get across for my audience?
All I would say to your audience is believe in yourself. If you're dipping your toes into spirituality and tarot readings or psychic readings or any kind of readings or insights or whatever you may be interested in, take the plunge, but go with somebody that's word of mouth. Do, if you're going for the first time, try not to go to somebody you don't know. Get a referral, get somebody who knows somebody who's had that kind of reading, because the whole point of having a reading and being with a reader is to build your faith and confidence up. And if you end up, and I've had it in my time, and I'm a reader, where I've not had great readers, actual people who I wouldn't even call readers, but you've just had a horrible reading, and you don't want to be walking away from that, because what that will do is put you in more despair relating to where your life is and not trusting. So definitely, if you are dipping your toe in, take that plunge, but always ask for a referral, somebody who knows somebody. That's the best way of getting that experience.
Okay, that's a good tip. And it gives right away this kind of sense of trust a little bit if you get a referral too,
Yeah,
because it's
definitely.
not like we can't just open, like in old days we would open the phone book and look, and on
Yeah,
today we would probably
and
just
hope.
Google it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so referral is definitely the better way to go. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ambila, for sharing your knowledge and your journey with us. I always feel very intrigued when I hear somebody that comes so from the corporate world and goes into more spiritual, and if you want to call it woo-woo ways, because yeah, it just shows that it's not exclusive. It doesn't have to be one or the other. It can be both, and we can live
Yeah,
both. Yeah, so
exactly.
thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me, Connie. I've really loved talking. Thank you.